Welcome everyone, Math 100. We're covering several sections today, 1.2 through 1.4. We're going to do addition, subtraction, multiplication. Now, I'm sure everybody's seen this stuff before, but it may have been several years since you've done any arithmetic by hand. So what we're going to work on is not only the basic techniques, but all those little exceptions that come up in special cases, things you might have forgotten about since way back when. So we're going to start with addition. Got an example here. We're going to add a 4-digit, 3-digit number together. And the key to doing addition by hand is making sure you get your columns all lined up. We want the ones over the ones, tens over the tens, hundreds over the hundreds. Fives has nothing to match with. The thousands, we just have one number there. So we're going to add column by column. And I want these done in a specific way so that you show your work. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add together the ones column. 8 and 5 gives us 13. And since it's more than 9, we're going to have to carry the 1. We're going to carry that 1 which is worth 10 and bring it over into the tens column. Now when you write your carry digits, write full carry digits on top. Don't write some little tiny little carry digit that I can barely see. Alright, I need to be able to see this. And I'm old and my eyes are terrible, so make sure you write big at all times. So now we're going to add up this column, including the carry digits. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in this one. That goes down here. Nothing to carry there, so we're going to go over to the next one. 6 and 4 is 10, so we got a 0 here. And since it's 10 or more, we're going to carry that 1 to the next column, over here to the thousands column. So 5 and 1 gives us 6. And the answer is 6,063. Now one thing that's very helpful to do, notice when I wrote these numbers out, I included a little bit of space between them. That helps keeps the columns separated. If you write these together, like 56, and especially if you have like longer numbers like that, are you going to add that to who knows what numbers in what column? This is going to end up leading to mistakes. So just make sure you're real organized when you do this. All right, now we're up to the your turns. Keep in mind, I do not pause during the your turns, so that's your job. Pause the video, work on the your turns. Let's work on A and B first, and then I'll go over the answers, then we'll do C and D. All right, part A, we're going to add these together. It looks like we're not going to have to carry any digits here because all the sums of the columns are going to be less than 10. So we got 9 here, we got a 6 and 2 is an 8, and nothing to add the 1 with. Actually, I'm going to move that plus sign over here so it's out of the way. 1 and 0 is 1. So 189 for the first one. Now with B, we will have some carrying to do here. We got 7 and 6, that gives us 13. So we're going to carry the 1. And now what I usually like to do when I'm adding together lists of numbers like this is to look for opportunities to create a 10. 9 and 1 is 10, plus 3 is 13. So a little easier to add when you can make 10s. And then we got 5, 6, 7. So 733 for that one. All right, go ahead and work on C and D. All right, part C, to line these up, the 9,000 number did not include a comma. That's fairly commonplace with 4-digit numbers. Sometimes you'll see a comma, sometimes you won't. So those are really nice tools for lining these up. Make sure you get those commas right over each other. All right, first, the 1, 0 and 5 is 5. Nothing to carry there. 7 and 5 is 12. And we do have a 1 to carry there, so write that 1 carry digit nice and prominently up top here. So you got 2, 3, 4, and then the comma. And now we've got 9 and 8, that's 17, and we'll carry another 1 there. 7 and 1 is 8. So 87,425, part C. And D. Now D is given in the order 9,248 first, then 271, then 12,497. What I usually like to do, and this isn't required or anything, but it helps to keep things organized, is to write the number of the largest digits on top, and then the next smaller number of digits, and then the least number of digits. For some reason, it's just easier to keep track of things this way. All right, now adding up the ones, we got 7 and 8 is 15, plus 1 is 16. So 16, 6 goes down there, carry the 1. We got a 10 here, so there's 10, 17, 21. So now we're going to carry a 2, so we're up to 21. So we got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's going to be a 0 here. And bring the 1. And now we've got 9 and 1 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So 2 is going to go here, carry the 1. 1 and 2 is 2. The comma comes straight down here. And we get 22,016 for that one. Addition, pretty straightforward. Now we're going to move on to the opposite operation, subtraction. So with addition, we need to be concerned about carrying, and with subtraction, we need to be concerned about borrowing. So example 2, and make sure you leave yourself a little bit of room around it for the borrowing. So we got 3,053. And we're going to subtract 737 from 3,053. So the thing we're subtracting from goes on top. The thing we are subtracting goes below it. Subtraction sign out front. All right, now we're going to subtract, just like with addition, one column at a time. But sometimes you're going to run into a problem where we can't actually subtract. Cannot take away 7 from 3. So that means we need to borrow. So we're going to borrow over here from the tens digit. Remember, each one of these, like we saw in the first lesson, is worth 10. So if I take the 5 and reduce that to 4, I can take that 10 and move it over to this column. And the 3 becomes 13. Now please write it just like this with the new numbers up top like this. So shows exactly what's going on. Sometimes some people like to write that little 1 next to the 3. Well, I can barely see it, so I might miss that and take points off. So make sure you write whole number up top. 13 minus 7 gives us 6. All right, now we're subtracting from the new number here, 4. 4 minus 3 gives us 1. And now it looks like we need to borrow here again. Now there is a little shortcut you can do. Since we don't have a number here, we can just do 30 minus 7 to get 23. So a little shortcut you can do. To do it the long way, we're going to borrow here, turn that into a 2, and the 0 turns into a 10. 10 minus 7 is 3, 2 minus 0 is 2, so there's the 23. 2,316. So that brings us to your turn number 2. Let's work on A and B first. For A, it looks like we're not going to have to do any borrowing. 5 minus 2 is 3. 8 minus 5, or 8 minus 3 is 5. 7 minus 1 is 6. 653. For B, we will need to do some borrowing here. First column is fine. 7 minus 3 gives us 4. Now we got 2 minus 4. That's not going to work. So we need to borrow 1 from the 8. Give it to the 2, turning that into 12. So 12 minus 4 is 8. And 8 minus 1 is 7. 784. All right, let's work on C and D. Part C. We cannot subtract 9 from 8, so we'll need to borrow here. So that's going to turn the 3 into a 2 and the 8 into 18. 18 minus 9 is 9. Now we're going to need to borrow from the one we changed to a 2, or we're going to have to borrow from this one and give it to this one. So it's going to require another cross out here, so make sure you leave yourself plenty of room up top. It's really important not to scrunch all of these problems together. Okay, so we're borrowing from the 1, turning that into a 0, and the 2 turns into 12. So now we're going to subtract 5 from 12, giving us 7. And then 0 minus 0, that stays 0. And 8 minus 6 is 2. So 2,079. Now D is a little tricky. This is one of those special cases that we run into, and that's why we're practicing these. So we can encounter these special cases and remember what to do here. So here, we cannot subtract 7 from 5. So we're going to need to borrow. But we have a 0 there. You can't borrow from 0. So we're going to have to go all the way over to the 4 and borrow from there. So the 4 is going to turn into a 3, and then the 0 turns into a 10. All right, now we have something we can borrow from. So we're going to borrow 1 from the 10. That turns into a 9. And the 5, now we have a 15. Bring that 1 over to the 5. Okay, so now 15 minus 7 gives us 8. So 8 in the 1's column. 9 minus 6 is 3. And 3 minus 2 is 1. 138 for part D. And next up is multiplication. So this is where those multiplication tables are going to come in so handy. So hopefully you've been working on those and getting your multiplications down. It's going to save you any time that you put in to learning the multiplication tables now will be saved later. It'll make you that much faster. So it's well worth the time. And you'll have much better performance on the upcoming exam. Example 3. We're going to multiply 543. And make sure you leave a lot of room around here. You're going to need room for carry digits. And we're going to multiply by 29. Now when we multiply, we're going to break it up into parts. We're going to multiply by 1 digit at a time. And when we multiply it by a digit, that's going to give us a row. Every digit we multiply by, and the second number is going to give us a row of numbers. And those row numbers, we eventually add them together. So to get the first row, we're going to take 543 and multiply by just the 9. Ignore the 2 on the first row. All right, one at a time. 3 times 9, 27. Now bring carry digit up here. You're prominently up top. For every row, we're going to have a row of carry digits if we have to carry. All right, so first row of numbers gives us this first row of carry digits. Now it's okay to write them just a little bit smaller. Just don't write them tiny. That way you can tell the difference between the numbers and the carry digits. If they're a little smaller, that's fine. If they're tiny, I can't read them. Okay, next one. 4 times 9, 36, plus 2, 38. Carry the 3. 5 times 9, 45, plus 3, 48. It's our last digits, so write the whole number down. And there's our first row, 4887. All right, now we're going to work on the next row. We're going to multiply by the 2 digit. Now 2 is in the tens place. So we're going to take care of the fact that this is actually 20 and not just 2 by putting a 0 in the first column. All right, make sure you do that. If your second column, we're going to have 1 0, third column, 2 zeros, and so on. Now we're going to multiply 543 by 2. Since we've already taken care of the 0, we're not multiplying by 20. Now we're just multiplying by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. All right, so there's our 2 rows. All right, 2 digits, 2 rows. Now we did not actually have any carries there. If we had any carries, we would write the carries in the second row of carry digits. All right, make sure you're very organized, everything you do. Now, last thing we need to do is add these 2 together. 7 plus 0, that's the same. 8 and 6 is 14, carry the 1. 8 and 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17, carry the 1. 4 and 1 is 5. And we get 15,747. 15,747. All right, let's give this technique a try with your turn number 3. Let's work on A and B first. Part A. Now, if we multiply by the zeros, we're going to get a row of all zeros. So you can just ignore that one. We're going to go on and we'll start by multiplying by the 2. Now we do have a digit here. It's the second digit over, so we have to start with a 0 just like we did before. And now we're going to multiply everything by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. So 8,244 part A. Part B, this one we will have 2 rows. So we're going to start off with 6 times 7, that's 42. If you know those times tables, and this is a fast process. If you don't, it's going to be very slow. 1 times 7 is 7, plus 4 is 11. So 1 down here and carry the 1. 3 times 7, 21, plus 1, 22. All right, now we're going to multiply by the 4, so we need a 0 for the 1's place. 6 times 4, that is 24. Carrying the 2, so that goes in the second row of carry digits. All right, now we're doing the middle number. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 2 is 6. And then finally, we're going to do 3 times 4 is 12. Add these 2 together. We got a 2, and a 5, and an 8, and a 4, and a 1. And that gives us 14,852. Let's do part C and D. Part C. Nice one, we're multiplying by 1 here, so that's just 1813. Now moving over to the second digit, it's 6. So we're going to need a 1 in the 0 spot. I'm multiplying everything by 6. So 3 times 6 is 18. Carry the 1. 1 times 6 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Now we've got 8 times 6, that's 48. So 8 goes down here, carry the 4. 1 times 6 is 6, plus 4 is 10. So every once in a while, we might have 2-digit difference. 4 in this one, 6 in this one. It happens sometimes. Okay, adding those two together then, we got 3 and 0, 1 and 8, 8 and 7, carry the 1, 8, 9, 10, carry the 1, 1, 1. So we got 110,593. All right, part D. Now this time we're multiplying by a 3-digit number, so that means we're going to have 3 rows and possibly 3 rows of carry digits. So first one, 4 times 2 is 8, 3 times 2 is 6, 9 times 2, that is 18, so we're going to carry a 1, got an 8 down here, and then 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 5, 8, 6, 8 for the first row. Second row, we're going to need a 0 here. Now we're multiplying by 6. 6 times 4, 24. Carry the 2 into the second row of carry digits. Don't write it here, they get confused with that one. Another row here. Okay, so now we're doing the middle one. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20. So a 0 here, and we're carrying another 2. 9 times 6, 54, plus 2, 56. And finally, 2 times 6 is 12, plus 5 is 17. All right, now we're going to one more row here, multiplied by the 7. So this is our third digit over, so we're going to need 2 zeros here. Start at the third digit over. 4 times 7, 28. Carry the 2. 2 is going to go up into the third row of carry digits. Notice how everything is very organized. I'm not getting anything confused here. All right, 3 times 7, that is 21, plus 2 is 23. So 3 goes down here, now they're carrying the 2 up here. 9 times 7, 63, plus 2, 65. And 6 goes up here. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 6 is 20. All right. Add these up, we get 8. Here we get 10. Carry the 1. 8 and 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. So 7 goes here. Carry the 1. We have our comma here. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 7 plus 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Carry the 1, 2 here, and 2 here. So that is 2,235,708. So this long division, or long multiplication like this, it's fairly tedious, it just takes a lot of practice. And what I recommend doing is every time you do a row, just do a check, just to make sure you're right. When you have a multiple step process like this, if you make a little mistake here, it's going to run through the whole problem. So check each step. All right, now we're going to look at a few special things to do with multiplication. Especially to do with symbols, a lot of different symbols for multiplication. In fact, this is the last course we'll be using the X for multiplication. After this course, we no longer do that. And the main reason is we'll be introducing variables. In fact, chapter 10 of this course, we won't be using X anymore. But that is one of the symbols we can use, commonly used in arithmetic. Half of math is being able to interpret the symbols correctly. So different ways to write multiplication. You can always use the old x there, little x in between 2 and 3. Also, parentheses. Anything next to a parenthesis, that's multiplication, including parentheses next to a parentheses. You could also write it without one of the parentheses, like 2 times 3, or we could write it as parentheses around the 2. So 2 times 3, both in parentheses, or either one in parentheses. All indicate multiplication. These all mean the exact same thing. What else we got here? We got the dot. This is what replaces the x once we get out of arithmetic and move into algebra. The dot replaces the x. And then with computers, there's no dot key, so we use the star. So there's a bunch of different ways to indicate multiplication. So make sure you keep those in mind. Whenever we see any of those, we are multiplying. And this will be especially important when we get into order of operations, where there's more complex expressions, a lot of different operations, and there you go. Be able to read through the expression, determine what operation is there, and then perform them in the correct order. So very important to be able to interpret these symbols. A couple other properties associated with multiplication. One is the identity property. This is if we take any number and multiply by 1, we get the same number out. So multiplying by 1 does not change the value. Now this may seem fairly obvious and like it's not very useful, but as we'll see when we start studying fractions, we're going to end up using this property over and over and over again. And then the multiplication property of 0, multiply anything by 0, and you get 0. Now, one of the most important properties to do the multiplication is the distributive property. This is distribution over addition. So what that means is we've got a number on the outside, and I'm just going to use the letters just to show you the format. And then we've got in parentheses a couple of numbers added together. All right, this is distribution of multiplication over addition. Addition is inside the parentheses. And what we can do here is multiply one piece at a time. Kind of the way when we're doing long multiplication, let's say we did when we did this, we did 387 times 6, got a row. Then we did 387 times 20, and got another row. We split 26 up into pieces, and we multiplied 387 by both pieces individually. Well, that's what we can do here. I'm going to take the A, multiply by B, so you get AB. Keep the plus sign, whatever sign is here, stays here, and then you take the A, all right, we multiplied by B, and now we're going to multiply by C. So we get A times B plus A times C. And I should write in symbols here because we haven't done algebra yet. So A times B, and this is A times C. And then as you'll see when we do order of operations, we're going to evaluate this first, and then this first, and then add them together. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to do an example with some actual numbers here, so it's not just a bunch of letters all over the place. I know that can get confusing. Let's look at an actual example of this property. So I'm going to take 5 and multiply by 2 plus 6. Now this is the same as doing 5 times 2 plus 6 is 8. Right? I'm just taking 8 and splitting it up into 2 and 6. And when we do that, now we can demonstrate the distributive property. So I'm going to take 5, multiply by the 2 first. So we got 5 times 2 here. All right, now we keep the same sign between the 2 and the 6. Keep that addition. And then we'll take the 5 and multiply by the 6 now. So 5 times 6. All right, 5 times 2 is 10. And then 5 plus 6 is 30. All right, I always do the multiplications first, and we'll get into this in more detail later. And then finally add them together and you get 40. And notice we get the same answer as if we had kept the 2 and 6 together. 5 times 8 is 40. So you get the same answer either way. All right, your turn, number 4. Distribute and evaluate 3 times 4 plus 2. All right, multiply by the first number, 3 times 4. Keep the same symbol in between, add, and then 3 times 2. So this gives us 12. This gives us 6. Add them together, and we get 18. And that's the same answer as we get as if we combine these first into 6. 3 times 6 is 18. So that checks. All right, that's it for today. Make sure, if you don't have those times tables down yet, make sure you keep practicing those. We're going to be using those throughout the first 3 chapters of the course.